Garfield.
What's up, guys? Rob from Edgeguards Gaming here, bringing you another Nickelodeon All Star Brawl video. And this video is going to be another more structured video, more pre-recorded, more edited kind of video, kind of like my introduction to Nick Brawl, its mechanics and whatnot. This is going to be an introduction to Garfield. So Garfield is my main. I've been playing Garfield pretty much since he came out. I'm by no means the best Garfield out there, but I do think at this point I know enough to at least give you guys an introduction to the character, show you kind of how to get started, some basic things about him, as well as, again, in the later part of the video, some more quote-unquote advanced stuff that you can do with the funny lasagna cat. So without further ado, let's get into some basics. So Garfield is the kind of character that, in my introduction to Nick Brawl video, I classified as a scrapper. And what I mean by that is that he does have some really solid projectiles in his 3 different kinds of pies, as well as Pookie, but he's not so much a true zoner in that he definitely has a lot of tools that you can use up close and personal to kind of get in your opponent's face. Now, how you play Garfield is really going to be determined by you. Me and the other Garfields have discussed this, and there really is no right or wrong way to play this character. He truly is one of the more expressive characters in the game in terms of you can play him pretty much in any way that you really want. You can play him more defensively, you can play him more up close and personal. I myself am definitely more of an aggressive Garfield. I don't really like sitting back and kind of zoning as much, but you can if you so choose. There's also a lot of expression in whether you're ground-based, because he does have really good things like his jab and down tilt, but he also has really good aerials. So this character is really going to be determined by how you want to play him. But before we get into exactly the tools that he has in order to show you the ways that you can play up close, let's go over some of his base stats in the game. Okay, in this section of the video, we're just going to go over Garfield's base stats in the game. These are just going to be the different things like his weight, run speed, airspeed, fall speed, and gravity. Keep in mind these rankings are all out of 25. We currently have 23 characters in the game, but Lucy's 3 modes have different stats, so you end up with rankings out of 25. And for some of these stats, Garfield is actually tied with other characters, but basically, more or less, the moral of the story is I'm just going to quickly go over Garf's base stats in the game. So Garf has a weight of 108. Which is tied for 9th in the game, or not tied for 9th, it is 9th in the game. And so this actually makes him pretty chunky. He can actually live fairly long, and now that momentum canceling is no longer, well, it's in the game, but it's definitely not as useful as it used to be. It's severely nerfed. Having his weight is going to allow you to survive those horizontal kills a little bit better. So it is nice to have that weight behind Garf, you know. It gives him a little bit more of survivability. His run speed is 18.7, which is 16th. So on the slower end of things. And I actually did a quick test for this video where I was running the length of harmonic convergence with Garfield and doing tests to see if his wave dash was faster. So if you just flat out run harmonic convergence, it takes roughly 2.5 seconds. His wave dashing harmonic takes about 2 seconds. And his short wave dash takes about 2 2/3 seconds. So not massive differences, but it is important to know that, you know, the difference between 2 and 2.5 seconds, you know, a half second, 30 frames in a 60 FPS game, that can be the difference between a follow-up being true or a combo landing and not. So definitely do keep that in mind, but ultimately there's also the point that Garf can decently get to where he needs to go. I mean, he is a bit slow, so maybe you do need to implement the wave dash every now and then, but you know, if you're just flat out running, you're not going to notice a huge difference, but again, those 30 frames could make a difference in your combo game, so keep that in mind. Airspeed is 15.7, which actually this is ranked from highest to lowest, so he's actually on the slower end of airspeed, which makes sense. You know, he's a little bit of a slower character. His fall speed is 32, which is tied for 9th. But a lot of characters are actually tied in this regard. So when you sort it, you actually see that he is on the slower end of fall speeds. Same thing when it comes to his gravity. He is kind of in the middle of the pack on gravity. And basically what this means is that Garfield's fall speed being a little bit slower is actually kind of a good thing in one sense, and kind of a bad thing in another sense. In one hand, it's a good thing because you're not plummeting to the ground, so you can get out of combos a little bit easier sometimes. Some combos might not necessarily be as true as they would be on other heavyweights, and it also, you know, gives you a little bit of time to kind of plan your landing sometimes, and you can float a little bit to kind of throw your opponent off. But of course, also this does mean that your opponent will have a little bit more time to kind of plan and execute a follow-up on your fall. So definitely keep that in mind, that yeah, being a little, he's oddly a little floaty, it feels like at times, which can be nice, but it can also give your opponent a little bit of an advantage sometimes. So, you know, these are just Garfield's base stats, just some things to keep in mind as you play around with the fat lasagna cat. Okay, so the first move is Garf's light neutral on the ground, which is his jab, which is a kick. Now, this is a decently fast move. It comes out in 7 frames, and it deals about 5%. This is one of his Garf's best moves because it can combo into itself, and it's used in the Garf Bobble, which we'll talk about later. But overall, this is a very good move. If your opponent DIs in on this, you can pretty much trap them almost like forever on it. So definitely a really good move for Garf. And it has a weird kind of like back hitbox as well. You can see he has a hitbox around like his lower part of his body, so you can get some weird like back hits with this one as well. So yeah, pretty good move for Garf overall. Next is Garf's down tilt, or his light down. This is called fly swatter. He basically swings a newspaper, and this move is really, really good. I would argue that this might actually be Garf's best move on the ground. It's a powerful combo starter. It pops your opponent up for other things and follow-ups, and it's actually pretty fast. It comes out in 6 frames, which makes it a really, really good out of shield option for Garf, because if you're yellow shielding things, a lot of the times they're going to have more than 6 frames of end lag. So this is a really solid move, and it can also be used as an edge guard or a option at ledge to knock your opponent down and towards the lower blast zone. Garf's up tilt is called Donut Bother Me, and he basically swings a donut above his head. This move is probably the one I get the least use out of on the ground, but it's still a solid option. It's still pretty fast, comes out in 6 frames, and the hitbox on it isn't that bad. You can see here that it does cover a lot of his body, so it's decent as an anti-air. It's decent as part of a down tilt to up tilt combo. One thing that's weird about it is it does sometimes kind of have an issue with hitting grounded opponents, especially if they're smaller. But otherwise, it's, you know, it's a pretty okay move in order to combo off of something like a, you know, down. Oh, if SpongeBob doesn't want to go flying off stage, something like a you know, down tilt to up tilt. You know, pretty good move for that. Garf's light dash attack is actually also another one of his best moves. His light dash comes out pretty fast in 7 frames, and it's part of his Garf Bobble combo that, again, we'll talk about later. But it's a really, really good option in order to kind of set your opponent up for a lot of different things. And the hitbox on it is absolutely massive. I mean, look at this thing. If you see the hitbox on this thing, like, look at that. Look at how disjointed this move is. It's a little crazy, but definitely one of his best moves on the ground. You just want to be careful with this one because his light dash is hella punishable on block at minus 21 frames. So definitely got to be careful with this one. But overall, solid move for Garf. In fact, it sets up into a lot of edge guard situations if you do your light dash into down tilt or light dash into down smash at ledge, something like that, which we'll get into later. But yeah, really good move for him. So Garf's grounded neutral strong is leg slap, and he kind of throws out that, you know, big old leg of meat here. And the hitbox on this is actually pretty good. It does cover a lot, and you can see that it's pretty solidly disjointed, so it's kind of hard to punish. You know, obviously it's not very good on block. It's like minus 15 on block. So if your opponent does even gray shield this, you're going to be in for some trouble. But because it's so disjointed, and if they gray shield, they get pushed back, it's not the worst thing in the world, but you definitely don't want to be getting this shielded. This has some uses for things like runaway turnaround attacks. You know, if your opponent's like dash dancing in your face and you're not really sure what to do, you could do a runaway and throw out this neutral strong. It's also got a pretty good use for ledge play. You know, can be used to cover roll-ons and get-ups. So because it's so disjointed, it kind of puts you in a position to be able to cover the ledge a little bit. So pretty good attack all around, honestly. Garf's down strong is his infamous clashy shtick, and this is probably the one that you've seen and have probably been hit by at ledge way too many times. I mean, the hitboxes on this thing are absolutely massive, so you can actually even catch opponents that are slightly behind you, almost like an anti-air. Yeah, this one obviously has a lot of use at the ledge. It's a great edge guard, and you know, on stage, it's not the most useful thing. It pops your opponent up, so it can be used to kind of go for a follow-up aerial, but this definitely is most useful towards the ledge of the stage, and it can be absolutely brutal. I mean, it just invalidates certain characters' recovery, so definitely a very strong move for him. Garf's up smash, or up strong, is Lasagna Frenzy. The hitbox on this thing is absolutely crazy. It's lasts a pretty good amount of time too. I mean, it lasts from frame 17 to frame 31, so this can catch opponents out who are maybe not aware of how long it is, or if they mistime it, and it's really strong. I think it might actually be his strongest strong. I'm not positive on that, but it definitely feels like it. I mean, you go absolutely flying with this thing. Has a lot of uses in his combo game. A couple different things can combo into it. And it can even be used to kind of cover ledge roll-ons, or if your opponent has a really annoying option, like if Shredder insists on neutral being you over and over again, you can use this to kind of call him out and catch him out on it. So, yeah. Lasagna Frenzy, it might not be a traditional up strong because it actually doesn't cover above his head, you know. So you're going to have to definitely get used to not really having an up strong necessarily on the ground. But trust me, this move, it's a doozy. Garf's strong dash, I actually find that I get probably the least use of this move out of any of his moves. But that's not to say it doesn't have its uses. He pounces, so he kind of does cover a lot of ground. But the hitboxes are kind of small on it, and they don't last tremendously long. So this is definitely an option that has a little bit more niche uses, which we'll get into later in terms of comboing into like a neutral strong or an up strong or something. And it doesn't set up for things at the ledge as easily as his light dash does. So out of all of Garf's grounded moves, this is definitely the one I get the least use out of. But that's not to say it doesn't have a part in his kit. It's just one you're going to have to use more sparingly than the others, I would say. Garf's light nair is one of his better moves because it just covers so much. I mean, look at the hitbox on this thing. I mean, hold on, let's get on the other side of Sponge here. Look at the hitbox on this thing. I mean, seriously, it covers his entire body. You know, not necessarily his hands or toes, I guess, or his fingers and toes, but considering that those aren't actually hurt boxes, it's not really the worst thing in the world anyway. You know, your opponent can't hit you on one of those. So this move can definitely be used as, you know, a good spacer. It combos, a lot of things combo into it, and it also can combo into other things. It's not the greatest shield pressure. It is -8, but because it's so big, you can use it in neutral to kind of, you know, space things out and make your opponent think twice about it. But again, we'll get into more of the uses for these moves later. But overall, yeah, definitely a really good move for him, just because, I mean, it is absolutely massive. Garf's light down air might be his best move in my opinion. I get a lot of use out of this thing, and I know a lot of Garfs do as well. It combos into so many things, including some of his kill options. It's a multi-hit, so your opponent sometimes let go of shield early on it. That last final hitbox that you saw there is important for comboing into other things. It pops them up, like as you can see. So overall, this is a great move. It's also pretty good shield pressure, because on Gray Shield, that landing that final hit right before landing is actually even on block. So this is a really, really good move to, you know, shield pressure your opponent in. You know, you can shield pressure them, and it can even cross them up if you angle it correctly. It's a really, really good move. You're going to want to be using this move a lot, and you're going to want to be fast falling this move a lot to just put the pressure on your opponent and kind of make them uncomfortable. Garf's light up air is actually the move that a lot of people probably had kind of trouble getting the hang of, and it's because it's weirdly, it works weird with the animation. So you can see that the hitbox doesn't cover the entirety of the thought bubble, so it can be kind of odd to try to get used to placing this move, because it doesn't go directly above his head, but it also doesn't cover the entirety of the thought bubble. It's kind of offset by like a third next to his head and his finger. I mean, the hitbox is pretty big, and it does come out pretty fast, so it is a good move for juggling. Certain characters just really can't do much against this move, so you can get some pretty good juggles off with it. It's just one that's going to take a little bit of getting used to, just because the hitbox on it is kind of weird. Garf's strong neutral air, or his snare, is actually a really powerful combo finisher. If you can hit this move at the end of a nice string, you can send your opponents absolutely flying. You can see that the hitbox on it is pretty big. It's another one of these where the hitbox doesn't necessarily cover the animation, and it's kind of offset from his mouth. Like, it doesn't cover the bottom part of his mouth necessarily. It's a little bit above, almost towards like his eyes. But fast falling this off of a combo is a really powerful combo finisher, and it's definitely a move you're going to want to keep your thoughts on in order to wrap up a combo or a nice string. But another one of these moves where it's just going to take a little bit of getting used to for the animation, because it's not exactly what you would think it is. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Garf's strong down air is one of my favorite moves to use, because it's a powerful stomp, and it actually covers a lot below him. So you can really kind of get in your opponent's space with this thing. I mean, look at the hitboxes on that. Absolutely massive, massive hitboxes on this thing. And if you hit your opponent at a high enough percent with this thing, I mean, they're not coming back. It's tremendously strong, and it can even be used as a kill option on stage. And an edge guard. I mean, there's a lot of uses for this move, and you can kind of see why. I mean, like I said, the hitboxes are massive, and this move hits really hard. Garf's strong up air is another powerful combo finisher, and I actually get a lot of my kills off of this move as well. Specifically, down air to strong up air is one that I get a lot of mileage out of, and it's another one of these moves where the hitboxes on it are absolutely massive. I mean, Garf just has these hitboxes that cover so much, and I mean, yeah, you can see why this is one of his best moves, because look, SpongeBob was at my feet when I hit that combo, and he still, you know, got caught by it. So, you know, you can hit this move, and it can be used as a powerful finisher, as a kill option. It's not something you're just gonna want to throw out, but the hitboxes on this thing are enough that, you know, you can really call people out with this thing, and you can do some damage. Garf's neutral special is his pies. He has 3 different kinds of pies. He has a cream pie, which is a multi-hit move. He has a blueberry pie, which tends to either pop you up or pop you down if you're in the air. And then he has Blueberry Pie 2, which is a little bit stronger with similar properties. This one doesn't send you as far, and I believe this one sends you downwards more than it sends you upwards, but it's a little stronger and has a little bit more knockback and whatnot. But These are great tools for neutral because you can really put the pressure on your opponent. You can kind of force them to navigate these during an edgeguard situation. You can combo these off of a dash attack. These are definitely going to be some of Garf's best tools, and you're going to want to keep them kind of active during the game because you can really put your opponents in some bad spots, specifically with the cream pie. You can really put your opponent in a bad spot off stage, getting hit by a multi-hit and then being forced to recover against Garfield's Edgeguards. Definitely want to keep these active and in use during your matches. Garf's down special is Pookie, and the thing about Pookie is it's a trap. So you lay the trap, and then later on in a match you're going to recall it by hitting down B again. This is a really good option just to keep your opponent on their toes. You know, you're going to want to have Pookie out as much as possible. Unfortunately, Pookie can be destroyed by a simple light attack, so it's not invulnerable, and oftentimes people will just find a way to deal with Pookie by throwing out like big moves that just cover a lot of space and destroy Pookie. But you want to have Pookie out because you want your opponent to be thinking about it. You know, if you're over here and you're fighting over here, your opponent's like dash dashing in your face, you know, you just recall Pookie. You know, keep them on their toes. And a lot of the times if you recall and you get a hit off of them, they're not going to be ready for the hit. Pookie can also be helpful for getting out of disadvantage. You can also be useful for edge guarding. So we'll get into those later. But yeah, Pookie, while it's not the greatest move in the world because it does have a lot of end lag, and Pookie can be destroyed in the air, can be destroyed on the ground, he can be reflected. Basically, having this ability to always, you know, throw out this thing at your opponent. Okay, well, I'm over here, I'm camping, and then all of a sudden, boom, you know, I get hit by Pookie and now I'm over here, you know. Yeah, definitely a move that you want to keep out as often as possible. If nothing else, just to have that threat that at any moment you can press down special and throw your opponent's entire game plan off. One last thing to note about Pookie is that Pookie does go through platforms. So if you set your opponent up in a position to be hit by Pookie through a platform, it will go through like this. And this Pookie also goes through the stage, which is kind of odd to say, but if you throw Pookie off stage and you recall him before he disappears, you can see that Pookie does go through the stage. So just kind of keep that in mind, that he does go through platforms, and this could be a really useful tool to kind of catch your opponent out. And the hitbox lasts the entire time he's out, even going through platforms. So yeah, just keep that in mind, that Pookie, not affected by platforms. He really could care less about platforms and stages. Garf's up special and his recovery is called Feral Cat. It's kind of like a almost, if you're a Smash player, like an Incineroar recovery, where he goes up and then comes down with the hitbox. So it doesn't have the hitbox on the way up, but on the way down, it has a pretty decent hitbox that you can actually sometimes get kills with if your opponent's not paying attention. It's decently strong, and you can also change how far or how, I guess, how short the horizontal recovery on it is. You know, if you hold all the way left, you go pretty far. You can go up and then hold back, and you don't go nearly as far. This can be useful to mix up your landing. So if your opponent notices that your opponent's covering edge, you can try to go over their heads, or, you know, hold it back a little bit to go for a hit on your opponent if they're not ready for it. As far as recoveries go, it's okay. It's not the greatest because you can actually get bonked pretty easily sometimes, especially on stages like Sweet Dreams, where you just get bonked by the stage, and Jelly bonks you all the time with this move as well. So it's definitely something like you're gonna have to get used to recovering with. At first, I'm gonna be honest, you're probably gonna SD a lot off this move. It's just something you have to get used to. It's an odd recovery to say the least. It has its uses. You know, you can mix up where you're landing by going far or going not far, but yeah, just one of those things where the more you use it, the more comfortable you're gonna get with it. It can be edge guarded kind of easily because it's somewhat predictable. You have to go up and then have to come back down, and yeah. So as far as recoveries go, it's all right, but it can be a little bit of a weakness for Garf sometimes. Alright, so in this part of the video, we're going to talk about Garf's neutral game and how you can approach neutral and win. So I actually think that Garf has a pretty good neutral game, considering that he has his pie projectiles, which can put a lot of pressure on your opponent and force him into some bad options, as well as a pretty solid approaching tool in his fast fall down air and his fast fall nair. So one of the best ways to win neutral is trying to force your opponent into a bad option with the pies. So a lot of the times your opponents aren't going to want to deal with the pie. They might just shield it, honestly. If your opponent is good and they're able to grab your pies, this tactic is going to be less effective. But if you notice that your opponent has a tendency to shield your pies, a lot of the times, especially off of the cream pie, you can kind of bait them into a shield, hit them with the cream pie multi-hit, and then get a grab off of it. This is a really good way to kind of just force that neutral interaction and get that early win. The other pies aren't as effective at this, considering that when you block, it just kind of forces you back. But you can still force your opponent into a shield if you're just throwing out a lot of pies and a lot of options at them that they're not going to want to deal with. You know, you throw out a pie, they shield it, you go back to neutral, and then you can bait them into shielding because they think you're going to hit them with a pie, and then you can just do like a run-up grab, right? Now you've won neutral, you've got them in a grab, and you can go from there. Another good way to try to force your opponent into a bad shielding option is with Pookie. If you found a way to get your opponent between you and Pookie, a lot of the times they're also not going to be prepared to deal with it. So either they're going to be shielding Pookie, or they're going to be trying to shield Pookie. Especially, people tend to pick up on your habit. So if you're kind of dashing around and they notice you're not throwing out any options, they might notice that you're setting them up for the Pookie hit, and they might shield, and at that point, if you've baited them into the shield, again, you can just run up and get a shield grab. Or if they're not going to shield Pookie, if they're just dash dancing around, you're dash dancing around, you guys are kind of playing around each other, having Pookie out and then just kind of hitting them with it, you know, at an uninspected time is another really good way to get a neutral win. Because, you know, if they're not throwing out options, you know, if they're throwing out options that are big options, like, you know, a SpongeBob nair or like a Shredder nair, you know, Pookie's not going to be as effective in a situation because, you know, upon recalling Pookie, it's just going to get destroyed. It's not going to really do much for you. But if you notice that they're kind of throwing out options that are one directional, like a SpongeBob forward strong or a jab, or if they're not throwing out options at all, if they're kind of dash dancing around, this is especially good for some Danny players who just like to constantly kind of be moving. If you just hit them with the Pookie and they're not expecting it, you can get set up into a neutral win. So it's always good to try to position your opponent between you and Pookie, if nothing else, just for the threat that Pookie might actually end up being brought into play here. So another thing you can do is with pokes. If you notice that your opponent is shielding a lot, Garfield has some decent pokes. His down tilt, while still minus on shield, is decently disjointed enough that you can kind of poke your opponent with it. But you do need to space it because it is punishable. Same with jab. Jab is also punishable on shield. So, you know, I would say that these are really good options to throw out in neutral if you think you can get the hit off, considering that both jab and down tilt set up into a lot of Garf's other combos. You know, if you can manage to bait your opponent into getting hit by one of these, you're probably going to get a decent combo out of it, especially with the down tilt setting up into so many other options that we're going to cover later. So don't be afraid to throw these out in neutral, but just be aware that spacing is going to be important because these are punishable on shield, even on gray block, especially if your opponent is yellow blocking. If you're too close and you're not spacing them properly, you are going to get punished for it, especially off of a jab, which the hitbox or Garf's hurt box is kind of right out there with the jab, as opposed to a down tilt where Garf is disjointed a little bit more, so you might get less punished off of the hitbox of down tilt. So those are just a couple of ways you can force some hard shielding by your opponent if you're going to go for a grab off of that. But honestly, also one of Garf's best neutral tools is his down air and his nair. These are really good options, especially his down air. If you can manage to land the last hit of down air, it's actually even on shield. So if your opponent forces a shield on, or if you force a shield, if you force your opponent to shield us and you land the last hit, you can sometimes get a grab off of the down air. Nair is not plus on shield. It's not even either. It's negative on shield, so this can be punished. But it's still a decent tool to throw out in neutral because it is so big, and you can fast fall it. You can angular fast fall it if you really want to put some pressure on your opponent. But his down air being even on shield if you land that last hit is pretty useful tool. Only gray shield. If they are yellow shielding it, it is minus, so do be aware of that. So he has some good tools to approach, you know, decent shield poking, down tilt, and jab, although, again, punishable, so just be careful with it. The pies, I think, is really going to be where you're going to get a lot of neutral wins, because your opponents aren't going to be able to grab or shield every single pie. And another thing you can kind of do is do a short hop and throw out 2 pies. That way it covers that space. If your opponent approaches you by the air or they approach on the ground, they're going to get hit by either one of those pies. Or again, if they try to shield the cream pie, at that point you just do a run-up grab, or, you know, something along those lines. And you always want to have that threat of Pookie out, just to kind of force your opponent to be thinking about it. Okay, what's he going to throw at him? Is he going to throw out a down tilt? Is he going to throw out that jab? Okay, I'm ready for those. They stop shielding, and all of a sudden they get hit by Pookie, and you set up into a combo off of that. So overall, I would say Garf has a really strong neutral game. You're able to win a lot of interactions against your opponent. He does struggle in the neutral game against opponents with bigger disjoints than him. So, you know, even though I think he still has winning matchups on some of these characters like Mikey or Leonardo, if your opponent has disjointed moves, he can struggle against that sometimes. So you do want to be aware of that. And that's where things like the pies are really going to come into handy, because, you know, you're going to be able to throw those out and kind of compensate for the fact that Garf has decent disjoints, but other characters with better disjoints are going to be a real problem off of that. So yeah, those are just some general tips for Garf neutral. You know, make sure you're throwing out your aerials, you're throwing out your pies. Just keeping your opponent off balance is really the best way to do it. Always having that threat of Pookie, and, you know, getting your grabs off of bad shields, and make sure you're punishing bad shields off of your pie, because you don't want your opponent to start thinking, okay, I can just, you know, shield pie for free. You definitely want to make sure you're getting your punishes off with those. So yeah, overall, Garf, pretty strong neutral game. And let's start looking at what happens when you win neutral, and let's start looking at what happens when you lose neutral. So in this section, we're going to be talking about Garfield's grabs, and this section is going to be pretty short and sweet, because to be quite honest with you, Garfield doesn't get as much mileage out of his grabs as other characters do. Don't get me wrong, they're still important to know and still important to mix into your game to keep your opponent on their toes, but it's not super important as it is with other characters. So situations in which you can go for a grab, some of these will be further explained in other sections, but I'll just kind of go over them now. One of the easiest ways to get a grab is to do a light dash into a jab into a grab. That's one of the simplest ways to get a grab off as Garfield. You can also do a D-tilt grab. And you can also do a pie into a grab if your opponent shields it. So if we set sponge to shield here. This works the best with the cream pie because it's a multi-hit. So you throw out the pie, your opponent shields it, and then you run in and get the grab. Those are going to be your 3 main ways to get grabs for the most part, is just forcing those kind of interactions. You can also get light dare into grab, but it doesn't work as well, because that last landing hitbox of light dare is +0. So you can throw out a grab on that and just hope your opponent doesn't have a better option. But if they yellow shield that, then you're not really going to be able to get the grab off that, because you're actually going to be minus on yellow shield. So just keep that in mind. As far as what to do off of a grab, for the most part with Garfield, what you're going to want to do off grabs is just try to get your opponent off stage. If they're shielding near ledge and you get the grab, you're going to want to try to get them off stage to set them up for a strong down, a strong dare, some kind of other edge guard situation. That, I think, in my opinion, is the most useful way to use grabs. Now, of course, you can also force different things, like if your opponent's shielding, you run up, you know, you get a grab. You can down throw them to get them into a tech lockout situation or a jab reset situation, which can lead into your kill options. And I think that's pretty much mostly what you're going to be using your grabs for. To either get them on the ground for a jab reset situation to get them into a bobble, or to get them into a light dash situation off ledge, or otherwise simply just throwing them off ledge off of a bobble or something like that just to set them up for edge guards. So yeah, definitely keep the grabs in mind, but as Garf, it's not the most important tool in the box. I'll say that. So one of Garfield's best bread and butter percent builders is known as the Garf Bobble. It's essentially stringing jabs into light dashes, into more jabs, into another light dash, and you can get pretty good with this combo. You can carry your opponent across entire stages, even a stage as long as harmonic convergence. This combo is also really easy to pick up since you're just stringing jabs into jabs into light dash attacks, and so on and so on and so forth. So one thing that's important to note about the Garf Bobble is that your opponent can actually DI it pretty easily if they DI away and down, especially at low percents. They can get out of it pretty easily, almost always only eating maybe one jab and one light dash. Now obviously human opponents aren't always going to be prepared to immediately DI away and down on this combo, so you're generally going to get a couple of hits out of it, but it is important to note that this can be DI'd pretty easily if your opponent knows how to do it. So if you notice your opponent is starting to DI your bobble the right way, you can mix in a grab off of the jab that pops him up, and this will really throw your opponent off, because if they're DIing away off of this and you mix in that grab and you throw them off the platform, they're obviously going to be DIing away for the Garf Bobble, so they're going to go way further off stage than they want, and that's going to set them up into a edgeguard situation, which Garfield excels at and we'll cover later. So one other thing to note about the Garf Bobble is that at high percents, the jab is going to start to send them pretty far, especially depending on their DI. So you might only be able to get one or two of the bobbles in, especially on places that have platforms where your jab is going to send them right onto the platform for them to be able to tech away on that. So do keep that in mind. Even on stages with platforms, however, you can vary up the timing of your light dash and jab to let your opponent fall a little bit further before you hit them with the next jab to pop them back up, to keep them under the platform. But again, at higher percents, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to manage. So it's just something you're going to have to grind out and kind of get the feeling for the timing of. So one other thing you can also do with the Garf Bobble is mix in a pie throw at the end of one of your strings. If you're noticing that your opponent is starting to DI away, or you think you're coming towards the end of a string, you can mix in a pie just to kind of keep your opponent on their toes. Especially when they're being hit by the bobble, the pie is almost always going to hit because they're going to be so close to you unless they're at higher percents. So play around with it, throw in a pie every now and then, and just see what you can get off of it. You can also start a bobble off of a D-tilt, which is good to know. And I know I just talked about this one combo for quite some time, but it's important to build up percent at low and mid range, so it's important to get down, but we are going to move on. Down tilt can also lead into up tilt, which can lead into pretty much any aerial depending on your opponent's percent. At lower percents, you can combo this into a nair, which can also sometimes combo into another nair. And at mid percents, you might want to go for down tilt, up air, or down tilt, down air. And if you land that last hit of down air, it can send your opponent off in a different direction for you to follow up on. This is a really good combo because the down tilt to up tilt is true, and then the aerial is just going to be something you're going to react to DI and opponent position on. So definitely keep this one in the back pocket for a little bit of percent as well. This next one is one of my favorites, which is light dare to light dare, and sometimes you can also combo this into a strong up air. You make sure you need to space it in order to get that last strong hitbox. It's good to fast fall this if your opponent is grounded, but don't fast fall the second light dare if they're up in the air because you'll miss that last hitbox. So like I mentioned in the bobble section, you can also use pie off of a light dash attack. This is good to do if you've been doing a lot of bobbles and you want to just mix it up and keep your opponent on their toes. You hit a light dash and immediately throw out a pie. Then you just have to react to what kind of pie you get. Either the cream pie to send them something like off stage, the blueberry pie that sends them downward for a jab reset, or the blueberry pie that pops them upward for an aerial follow-up. You can also re-grab cream pie and just do some fun stuff with that. So now that we've gone over Garf's percent builders, let's talk about the situations in which you want to be using them. Because while it's all well and good to know what the combos are, it's also really important to know when to do them. Now, one thing that I will say about Garf is that he's very free-flowing. There's not really a flowchart to his game. It's not that you have to start out every stock with a Garf bobble or this, that, or the other thing. A lot of the best way to play Garf and build percentage off of his attacks is just to kind of read where your opponents are going, how they're reacting, and go from there. So that being said, the Garf bobble is a pretty solid option at low to mid percent. It's not going to work when you get up to too high a percent because the jab is going to be sending them pretty far away. Same thing with the D tilt to Garf bobble and the bobble to grab mix up. Once that jab starts sending them high and wide, it's going to be kind of difficult to follow up with that. D tilt to up tilt to any light aerial is a solid option at pretty much any percent, given that D tilt and up tilt don't have a ton of knockback, so you should be able to follow it up at any percent. Same thing with light dare to light nair or light up air. The knockback doesn't build that much on these moves, so you're going to be pretty consistently able to hit them, as well as cream pie to grab mix up and light dash to pie. Again, the light dash, not the most knockback, and it's pretty consistent as far as where it's going to send them. So you can pretty much utilize these combos at any percent. So again, just keep these combos in mind, but don't stick hard to them. Don't say, okay, I have to start with a bobble or I have to start with a D tilt. Just kind of play through, see what feels most comfortable to you. And once you get your opponent to a high enough percent, that's when you're going to want to start to look at the kill options, which we will look at in this next section. Two of Garf's best kill options are going to be down strong and down tilt at ledge. You can usually get these off of a light dash, which is usually going to be at the end of a bobble string. Now, these two moves send your opponent at a pretty brutal angle and send them into some pretty mean hit stun, so definitely want to hit these off of the light dash as often as possible. However, for some lighter characters such as Aang or April O'Neil, you might actually need to do a light dash into a short hop strong dare. Now, for some reason, the way the weights work, sometimes these characters end up not getting sent as far, or whatever the case is, and they can actually grab ledge. But if you see you do this short hop strong dare, it can absolutely obliterate opponents. Now, this also works on heavier characters, don't get me wrong, but in certain instances, you're going to need to do this option instead of the down strong at ledge. You can also set up these situations pretty effectively off of a jab block. Get your opponent down, set up the light dash, and choose whatever option is going to work best in that situation. So one of my personal favorite kill options that Garf has is his light dare into a strong up air. Some notes for this one: you're going to want to fast fall that light dare if your opponent is grounded, but don't fast fall it too early, otherwise you won't get that last hitbox. You need that last hitbox to pop your opponent up in order to set them up for the strong up air. You're also going to need to read your opponent's DI and track where they're going. If your opponent is drifting too far away, sometimes they can get out of it. So this kill option isn't as consistent as other ones, but it's definitely one of the ones that I get a lot of mileage out of myself. You can also nair into strong up air, but this generally relies on catching an opponent's jump and isn't as consistent as light dare to strong up air, but since the hitbox is a little bit bigger, it is something to keep in the back of your mind. Another really good kill option for Garf is his strong dash into either his up strong or his neutral strong. This is a really useful technique to know because it makes use of up strong, which is one of Garf's strongest smash attacks. Now, the neutral strong part of this, you might need to build up a little bit more percent since his neutral strong isn't as strong as some of his other moves. And you're definitely only going to want to go for the neutral strong if you're at ledge, otherwise definitely recommend going for the up strong. Now, one note about the neutral strong off of the strong dash is if your opponent's at too high of a percent and you try to act too quickly, you might actually miss them with the neutral strong. So if your opponent's at a high percent and you notice that they're popping over your neutral strong off your strong dash, wait just a half second and then hit the smash button. You can also hit these two options, your up strong or your neutral strong, off of a light dash. One thing to keep in mind, however, is that the light dash doesn't have as much knockback. So if your opponent is DIing it correctly, if they DI down and away, they can sometimes tech away before you can get the strong out. But it's a good thing to have in a back pocket to change up the timing between your quicker light dash and your slower but stronger strong dash. Fast Fall Snare is an actually really powerful combo finisher for Garfield. The move hits pretty hard, fast falling it covers a lot of ground, and it's pretty difficult for people to actually punish this when you look at the way that the hitbox works, because Garfield kind of extends his body backwards, so the hitbox tends to cover almost all of Garf's hurtbox. This is really good for catching people out who missed a tech on a platform or teched away from you on a platform, especially if you can get them up in the air near the left or right blast zones. Fast falling a snare is going to do a lot of good, and you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this move as a way to finish off your combos with a kill. One of Garf's funnier kill options is actually S-Dare on stage, because it slams him into the stage and sends him straight up. This is really good for people who are camping on platforms like on top of Rooftop Rumble, because it puts them closer to the blast zone and you can catch them off guard a lot of the times. Now, this shouldn't be used consistently because it is pretty punishable, and against heavier characters it's going to take pretty high percent. But if you mix it in every once in a while just to keep your opponents honest, it can lead to some pretty funny kills. Now, this next kill option is one that's not usually a true combo, but you can use Pookie to set your opponents up into an up strong, a neutral strong, or set them up for something like a turnaround neutral strong, or a follow with a strong dash into an up strong, or something along those lines. Basically, using Pookie to set your opponents up for a kill can be pretty good, considering that a lot of the times if your opponent hasn't destroyed Pookie immediately, they'll forget he's there, and then you can call him into action in the middle of a combo and catch him really off guard. Pookie's knockback isn't fixed, but it doesn't scale very hard, so being able to follow and place your strong should be pretty easy as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the situations in which you should be using these different kill options, because there are going to be more optimal situations for going for the different options. Again, a lot of this is going to come down to playing the character, playing the game, and just kind of getting used to what options you should be doing at different times, but I can give you a little bit of a general idea. And it is important to kind of practice these different kill options, because Garf can actually struggle to kill at times. It's one of the things that holds him back. So really getting these kill options down is going to be useful for you. So light dash to down strong or down tilt at ledge. This is a good low to mid percent and high percent as well kill option. So I guess really any percent kill option, but it's really good for gimps. So if you can catch your opponent out at low to mid percent with a gimp and hit them with a light dash into a down strong or down tilt and then edge guard them, you'll be able to close out a stock earlier than your opponent wants you to. Again, same with the jab lock to light dash down strong. Strong dash to up strong and neutral strong, this can be pretty much thrown out whenever you feel like your opponent is at a high enough percent. Same with light dash and up strong to end strong. This is one of the options that is going to be more of a feel thing. You know, if you think you've conditioned your opponent to the point where they're going to get hit by a dash attack, or if you notice that they're like just taking dash attacks throughout the match, you should be able to pull one of these off, so keep those in mind as well. Light air to strong up air, you need to be able to follow the DI on this. So once you kind of get a read on what your opponent is doing and you're able to consistently land that last hit of light dare, which is super important, you need to hit that last hit of light dare, otherwise your opponent's going to fall out of this combo. If your opponent messes up their DI, this can be a really powerful kill option, and it's one that I personally find myself getting a lot of my kills with. Fast Fall Snare is going to be your combo finisher, so if you found that you've popped your opponent up into an airspace where you think Fast Fall Snare is going to hit them, or if you notice that, okay, they've missed a tech on the platform or they've teched away from me and they're putting themselves closer to that blast zone, you're going to want to hit your Fast Fall Snare as part of your combo finisher. It's not really something you want to throw out as a raw option. You definitely want to hit this at the end of a string. S-Dare on stage, again, is going to be a little bit more of a situational thing. If you've noticed that your opponent is maybe camping on top of a platform like on Rooftop Rumble, or if they're playing a taller character and they're at a high percent, you might be able to hit them with a strong dare on stage and just send them right up into that top blast zone. But it is punishable, so keep that in mind, that it's not something you want to just throw out. It's something that you can throw out and kind of condition your opponent to, okay, think about, now I know he's got a S-Dare on stage. And it's also good against lighter characters, but you don't want to just continuously use this as a kill option. Same thing with Pookie into up strong or neutral strong or dash follow mix up. This is really good for mixing up your opponent, keeping them on their feet. If you know that you've got Pookie and your opponent's not really paying attention to him and he's kind of boxing you into a corner, hitting Pookie is going to really mess up a lot of your opponent's plans. Sometimes they're going to panic, and if they're not expecting the Pookie recall, they're not going to be DIing it properly. So Pookie to up strong, neutral strong, or dash follow is going to be situational, but pretty good as a mix-up to kind of keep your opponent thinking and keep them on their toes. In general, you're going to want to practice a lot of these kill options because, like I said, Garf can struggle to kill sometimes, so definitely keeping these in your back pocket is going to be huge for you. So when it comes to ledge play and edge guards, I think that Garfield actually excels at these two parts of the game. I think his edge guarding / ledge play is actually his strongest attribute, because you can really get some early kills on your opponent if you can hit them with the right moves, and a lot of his kit just really lends itself to being very strong in this area. So we're going to start with edge guarding, and obviously the number one option for edge guarding if you yourself are on stage is going to be your down strong or your down tilt. Now both of these moves just invalidate recoveries without hitboxes if they're not snapping to ledge, and even if they have hitboxes on top, if you can trade with them, these moves will absolutely obliterate your opponent and send them straight downward at some pretty disgusting angles. So definitely going to be your number one tools for edge guarding and just catching out recoveries that are either missing ledge or not snapping ledge and just misplays by your opponent. I mean, when you take a look at the hitboxes these two moves can throw out, they can pretty much cover the entirety of the ledge and more. So you're really going to force your opponent to either drift hard or snap ledge or basically just die. Another powerful edge guarding tool for Garfield is his strong dare. This can be used in a variety of different situations because it is such a big hitbox, it is such a strong hitbox, it's going to send your opponent straight downwards at a pretty severe angle with some pretty hard knockback. It can be used as a short hop strong dare off ledge to catch low recoveries if you fast fall it. It can be used to cover high recoveries considering it has that hitbox kind of around his hips. It can also be used as just a call out on a jump if you hold ledge and then do a jump call out off of it. It's just a really powerful move that is really, really good for edge guarding opponents, especially ones without hitboxes on their recoveries, but it can even trade with ones that do have hitboxes. Strong nair and strong up air can also be used as edge guards. These are really better for edge guards that your opponent wants to go high on. So you'll see a lot of this against characters like April O'Neil. If you notice that they're going high and you can't really get the S dare, strong nair and strong up air both work pretty well in these situations. Pookie is another niche edge guard you can use. It can be used to disrupt recoveries, and he even kind of semi-spike your opponent. The key is to recall Pookie when Pookie kind of collides with your opponent's hitbox, because that's going to send him downward. Otherwise, if you recall Pookie after they've already passed your opponent's hitbox, it's actually going to send them upwards and might actually help them recover a little bit. So yeah, a little bit of a niche one, but you can use Pookie, throw off stage, recall, and get a little bit of a spike. Another thing I like to do during edgeguard situations is if I'm far away enough from my opponent, I can throw some pies out in their direction and kind of force them to navigate a minefield. Throw a pie high, throw a pie medium, and then hold ledge and stand near ledge and threaten that edgeguard situation. Force them to navigate those hitboxes. And who knows, if you get a hit with a cream pie or the second stronger blueberry pie that spikes down a little bit, you might even get a gimp at an earlier percent than you might think. Alright, so now we're going to talk about some options if your opponent does get to ledge, different ways you can cover the different ledge options. Obviously, you can just down tilt them or down strong them if they're holding ledge without invincibility. I doubt anyone would really do that, but if they do, you can certainly just punish them for it. And you can also use S dare and strong up air to kind of cover the jump up options. But we're going to talk about a little bit more of the other options that we haven't really kind of gone over, because we've gone over strong dare and strong up air plenty of times by now. So let's get into it. A dashback neutral strong is a really good way to cover both get up attack and regular ledge get up. You're going to want to kind of stand in a neutral area between where the get up attack is going to hit and where you have enough room to dash back for a roll on, and just bait your opponent into using one of those two options, either the get up attack or a regular ledge get up, and dash back and hit them with a neutral strong. Because a neutral strong covers a lot of area, it's a pretty solid move for covering these two options, especially if you notice that your opponent tends to use one of these two a lot. Neutral strong can also catch a jump off of the ledge, so it is a solid option to kind of ledge trap your opponent. Like I said, you want to kind of bait them into it, position yourself in an area where I might be covering ledge roll up, I might go in for a down tilt, and then once you sense that they're about to use one of those two options, you do a dash back and then you neutral strong towards your opponent. So up strong at ledge is actually a really good coverage for the roll on option. The hitbox on this move lasts a deceptively long time, so a lot of people will actually just roll into this not thinking it's going to last that long. So space yourself to the point where you think that they're going to roll on, and when you're getting the sense that they might roll on, usually a lot of people tend to wait until their invincibility is just about over and then execute their ledge option. So right when their invincibility is ending, if you throw out this up strong, a lot of times you can catch people rolling on to ledge with this. So one general tip I have for edge guarding / ledge play as Garf is you always want to be as threatening as possible, and a lot of the time you can simply do that just by being near the ledge during an edge guard situation. You don't want to give up the ledge on purpose, and you don't want to give up your ledge easily, because people know that Garfield is very threatening in edge guard / ledge play situations because he has a strong dare, he has his down strong, he has his down tilt, his fast fall snare, his pies. It's a very difficult time recovering against Garf, so even just threatening is a very big thing as Garfield. And I'm going to play two clips here and I'm going to show you what I mean. So in this first clip, I have knocked the Toph off stage and I decide to hang ledge because I know that Toph does not have a hitbox on her way up for her recovery. What I decided to do in this situation, because I had noticed a lot of the time as my opponent was jumping back onto stage, is I give up the ledge and then I space a strong dare in my opponent's jump space. You try to catch their jump, and lo and behold, they try to jump and eat a strong dare and lose a stock. The second clip I'm going to show you is a perfect example of simply just being threatening. Now, April O'Neil's like to go high regardless, but specifically against Garf, April knows, okay, I can't go low because I'm going to eat a down strong, I'm going to eat a down tilt, I'm going to eat, a strong dare, and I can't do that because I'm not going to have the resources to get back up to stage. So April decides to go high, which then I cover with my strong up air. Lo and behold, she eats the strong up air, runs out of resources, and loses stock. So just a general tip as Garf, always be threatening at ledge because people know how scary he is, and you can just mind game your opponent like that. So overall, Garf's edge guarding and ledge trapping are two of his strongest suits in my opinion, because a lot of his kit just has different ways to cover a lot of different options. On edge guards, a down strong or a down tilt can cover a missed ledge snap and pretty much seal a lot of stocks. Strong dare can cover low recoveries from a short hop or a fast fall strong dare, or covering a ledge get up if you give up ledge and space it correctly. It just eats a lot of your opponent's room and gets really into their face with it. It puts a hitbox where they want to be and makes them pretty uncomfortable. Same thing with snare and strong up air, which cover high recoveries. It puts a hitbox in your opponent's way, and if they're trying to dash back on a stage or trying to cover high, it forces them to navigate a pretty powerful hitbox. Pies do the same thing. Pies can force your opponent into a bad spot. You can kind of almost guide your opponent to where you want them to be just by throwing out a couple pies. If you want your opponent to cover high, you throw out a couple pies and try to guess a jump. If you want your opponent to cover low, you jump, throw out a couple pies, and then cover low. You definitely want to have these active hitboxes always out. Pookie is kind of a niche edge guard with soft spike with some different uses like you saw. And you always want to threaten ledge during an edge guard situation because he's very dangerous. Garf is very good at edge guarding, and your opponents know that. So just threatening can sometimes really put your opponents in a bad spot. And when it comes to ledge play, your dash back neutral strong can cover your ledge get up and your normal ledge roll, or not roll on, your get up attack and your normal ledge get up, and up strong covers your ledge roll on with a pretty active hitbox that is deceivingly long. So definitely want to get your edge guards down with Garf because they're a strong part of his kit and can make up for his struggles to kill at times. So as far as disadvantage state goes when it comes to Garfield, there isn't a ton to talk about because he doesn't have that many specific ways to get out of disadvantage that other characters don't have. You know, I'm talking about obviously jumping out and air dashing. Two of his better ways to get out of disadvantage is his light dare and Pookie. Pookie's going to be more situational only because if your opponent's hitting you with a lot of big moves with active hitboxes like Shredder Nair or SpongeBob Nair, Pookie's probably going to get destroyed on his way to you. But if you're in early enough percent and your opponent is comboing you and you can get that Pookie recall, it can sometimes get you out of some pretty bad disadvantage states. And then when it comes to dare, it's really mostly just going to be used to get out of air juggles. So if your opponent is juggling you up in the air or is hitting you with an aerial combo, throwing out a light dare is going to be a pretty good way to land. Now, it's not perfect, obviously. There are going to be times where your opponent has a move that either is going to trade with dare or might out-prioritize your dare. So it's not going to be a perfect solution to getting out of disadvantage. But I will say, as far as disadvantage goes for Garfield-specific stuff, those are going to be probably your two main options. Recalling Pookie or using a light dare or a light nair. Light nair is pretty good for getting out of disadvantage as well because it does have a lot of big active hitboxes. Now, as far as recovering goes, I think the biggest key with Garfield is going to be varying up your recovery. Now, this can be harder to do than it is to say, obviously, easier said than done, because recovering low with Garf can actually be quite difficult because of the way his recovery works, the up and down motion of it. So snapping ledge is going to be very difficult when you start with Garfield. I'm just going to be honest. Snapping ledge with his up special, it's just something you're going to have to grind and practice and get used to. And you're going to get bonked. You're going to get bonked by a lot of stages, trust me. It's just going to happen. It's an unfortunate reality of the way that his recovery works. Getting bonked is kind of just part of the growing process with Garfield. But his recovery can be used pretty trickily sometimes. I mean, when you're able to, change the distance that you go with it, you can really mess up your opponent's timing with the Edgeguards. I mean, if you look here, one of my favorite recovery tricks to do is to let go of ledge and do a far distance recovery, because you're either going to go over your opponent's head or most likely they're going to be standing near the ledge to edge guard you. So a lot of the times you're just going to go right over their heads with this. And if you do decide to go high, I mean, you can cover almost the entire distance of Royal Wood Cemetery if you aim all the way to the left. But obviously there's going to be times and situations where you're going to want to shorten that recovery if your opponent is kind of threatening an edge guard, or just change your distance up. And I would say that's the number one thing with Garf recovery, is to change up your distances and make sure that you're always kind of keeping your opponent on your toes. So unfortunately, Garf's recovery took a pretty hard nerf with the recent momentum cancel changes. So I did just want to talk about that quickly as well. For those of you that are new to the game, recently we had a patch that basically not completely got rid of, but more or less made vectoring or momentum canceling using your air dash ineffective. So momentum based moves are going to be a little bit weaker because they're not going to go as far. So let me just show you an example. If Garfield gets hit here and I try to immediately up B, I go pretty much nowhere. I'll show you here. Do you see how he kind of like still was going backwards before he then up B'd again and went forward? If you're spamming your air dash or your up B after a strong, even if I'm holding all the way left, you see how I don't go nearly as far as I used to with Garf. And it's even, you know, with higher percent, it's even more and more noticeable. So this is definitely something that is going to take some getting used to, because it almost feels like his up B is like broken in a way. It's obviously not. It's just, oh, you know, as a result of the momentum cancel, the way the game works. But the counter to this is just wait. You have to wait until you're out of hit stun and until your momentum is firmly back in the correct direction before you can get the full use out of your up B. So when you're getting hit with these strong moves, don't panic spam up B, because you're not going to go anywhere. You're probably just going to SD off of it. Just get used to being patient, waiting until your momentum is fully back in your control, and then you can recover. Otherwise, if you're just spamming up B, yeah, you're probably going to end up SDing a lot. So just a little tidbit. Unfortunately, this makes Garf's recovery not nearly as good. It actually makes it kind of difficult to use sometimes, and he cannot recover from some things he maybe should be able to. So yeah, it's another one of these things. Just play with it. Just get used to it. It's going to be a feel thing for sure. Now, one thing you can do during your disadvantaged state while you're recovering is throw pies to kind of force your opponent to either shield them or take a hit and get away from that ledge that you want to get to. Just be careful, because obviously the pies are going to have end lag, so you don't want to try to spam out 3 pies, because of the increasing end lag. You'll probably just SD off the bottom. But if you're popped up with enough room and time to throw a pie or 2 out there, yeah, definitely go for it. Just kind of throw out a hitbox, force your opponent to think, and maybe give up that ledge a little bit easier. Practice going low, practice snapping that ledge, and, you know, don't be afraid to go high sometimes, because, you know, Garf's recovery, it is predictable. On the way up, you don't have much control over where you go, so the way up is very predictable, and you're susceptible to Edgeguards, so definitely something to keep in mind for sure. So overall, Garf's disadvantage state actually isn't that bad. You're able to light Dare, Nair, and Pookie out of a lot of different things. Combined with his lower gravity, allows you to kind of get out of a lot of different situations. Unfortunately, because of the recent nerf to momentum canceling, his recovery, however, is kind of in a rough spot right now. It's going to take a lot of patience playing him, because you're going to want to panic spam that up B and just snap back to stage. But it's not going to work, and you might end up SDing a lot more than you might think. So it just kind of, you have to get used to being patient with his up B, which feels weird to say, because his up B originally doesn't cover a ton of space horizontally. So saying, oh, just be patient, you know, on an up B that's not the best in the game, feels weird to say. But yeah, his recovery, I would say, is average, maybe slightly below average now with momentum canceling nerfs, but his disadvantage is above average for sure. Probably even almost go as far to say that it's a good disadvantage state. So in totality, Garf's disadvantage, not the worst. I'd say it's pretty average, but definitely gonna have to get used to being patient with the new momentum canceling change. And recovering sometimes is going to be rough. I'm not going to beat around the bush. You know, you're going to get bonked by stages. You're going to feel the effects of this momentum cancel change. But be patient. Practice snapping that up B. Practice varying up your recovery, going high, going low. And you'll be able to make it work for sure. So I'm going to label this section of the video the Garf meta. And I'm going to try to talk in more generic terms in order to maybe not date this video as quickly throughout different patches, but there are going to be things that will probably stay consistent, so I'll talk about those. However, just to start, I will talk a little bit specifically about stages. So currently the game has 5 hard legal stages, stages whose legality is not really in question at all, which is Sweet Dreams, Harmonic Convergence, Rooftop Rumble, Jellyfish Fields, and Urkin Armada Invasion. Although technically, I guess Urkin is questionably legal on Switch, but that's besides the point. And right now we have 2 stages that are kind of in debate. Sewer Slam is sometimes legal, sometimes not. And this video is actually being recorded, or this section of the video I should say is being recorded on the day that the Jenny patch dropped. And so there's some little bit of controversy over the legality of of Jenny's stage, Tremorton Joyride, just because of the platform transformations and the background being a little bit garish at times. So we'll say 5 hard legal stages, 2 kind of maybe sometimes stages. And right now, you know, or I should say before the Jenny patch, I had actually did a poll with the other Garfs, and I asked them to rank the legal stages from best to worst in terms of how they feel with Garfield on it. And I kind of aggregated our scores and got a little bit of a community quote-unquote list. So it was from best to worst: Sweet Dreams, Harmonic Convergence, Rooftop Rumble, Sewer Slam, Jellyfish Fields, and Urkin Armada Invasion. Upon first glance, this might seem kind of random, considering you have like a medium-sized 2-plat stage, a huge flat stage, and a medium-sized 1-plat stage in the top. So you're thinking, okay, size, right? But then Urkin Armada, you know, being the biggest stage, is not in people's top spots. And I think a lot of that just comes down to how you play Garf. And this is actually something that me and the other Garfs did talk about, which is, how do you like to play Garf? You know, are you more of an aerial based Garf? Are you a ground based Garf? We kind of determined that there's no like hard best, okay, you should always be going to this stage for Garf, or you should always be avoiding this stage for Garf stages, just because it really depends on how you want to play them. You know, I do think that this kind of trend shows a little bit more size is better for Garf. So, you know, Sweet Dreams, Harmonic, and Rooftop being bigger stages, whereas Jelly and Sewer Slam being on the bottom half of the list being a little bit smaller. You know, having a little bit of size is definitely helpful for Garf to set up his neutral game with his pies and Pookie and stuff like that. And having those platforms on Sweet Dreams and Rooftop let us kind of tech away from, you know, bad disadvantage states with like Nigel or Aang, as well as setting up platform chases for things like Fast Fall Snare off Miss Tex, and setting up, you know, a Pookie through a platform just to surprise your opponent. But all, you know, and when it comes to Tremorton Joyride, I imagine that it's going to be a decent stage for Garf. I've played a couple matches on it so far. It seems okay. You know, he can have some trouble kind of poking up on those top platforms, considering that his up tilt doesn't always reach. So he can have a little bit of trouble on the top platforms on Tremorton. But, you know, obviously the meta for that is still going to be developed. So as of right now, yeah, just kind of take this list with a grain of salt, so to speak. Because it's going to depend on how you play Garf, as far as what stages you're going to want to go to and what stages you're going to want to avoid. Now, as far as his matchups are concerned, Garf tends to struggle against characters that can outpace him in terms of just throwing out hitboxes, because Garf has a lot of really good hitboxes, but if your opponent has more active hitboxes or better active hitboxes, it's going to be a little bit difficult. It's also going to be difficult against characters with big active moves that cover a lot of their hurtbox. Something like a Shredder Nair or a SpongeBob Nair is going to be kind of difficult to deal with, only just because that's going to destroy your projectiles. Now, you know, that's going to be kind of an issue, because projectile game in neutral is one of his best tools in order to win neutral and get into that advantage state. So if your pies are constantly being destroyed by Shredder Nair or SpongeBob Nair, or, you know, if they can get reflected easily by something like any of April's, you know, strong moves, that's going to cause you some problems. But he does really well against characters that are bigger, characters that are more susceptible to being hit by projectiles, so something like a Reptar or a Ren and Stimpy. You know, bigger bodies are always going to be a little bit more advantageous for Garfield, just because they're going to be more susceptible to being hit by his projectiles and getting into those disadvantaged states. And, you know, the Garf Bobble is always going to work pretty well against heavy bodies for sure, more so than light bodies. So, you know, these are just some things to keep in mind when it comes to the Garf meta. And in general, Garfield has his strengths. I think his ledge trapping might be among the best in the game, maybe second to Zim. I think his edge guarding is fantastic when you consider all of the different options he can kind of throw out at you. You know, is strong dare being a great spike, Pookie being a threat, forcing your opponent into bad situations by throwing out the hitboxes of the different pies. catching missed ledge snaps with down strong and down tilt. You know, I think his ledge trapping and edge guarding is fantastic. He also has really good combo breakers. You know, his disadvantage state is kind of brought down a little bit by his recovery being predictable. That's why I said it's not fantastic. It's only really average, only just because his recovery is very predictable and you get bonked really easily on a lot of stages. But he does have really good combo breakers with his Nair and his light dare and Pookie occasionally. But, you know, there are weaknesses to keep in mind. When your opponent gets to higher percent and your setup stop working, it can be kind of difficult for Garf to secure the kill just because his raw kill power is a little bit difficult to land, and he doesn't have that raw kill power with a lot of his moves. You know, the up strong is definitely one of his best raw kill moves, but it can be difficult to land at times, and you know, that's just one of those things where that's why you need to really excel at ledge trapping and edge guarding with Garf, because once your opponent gets too high of a percent and your strong dashes stop working, you know, your strong dash into up strong or your strong dash into neutral strong stop working, it's going to be more of a problem for you. You know, he can be a bit difficult to play from behind with sometimes, because playing from in front means you can go for some of these, you know, more risky edge guards and ledge traps, whereas playing from behind, you're going to have to let your opponent back on stage maybe more than you want to, and yeah, it can be kind of difficult for Garf. So, you know, these are just some strengths and some weaknesses of the character to keep in mind, but overall I would highly recommend, if you're thinking about picking up this character, please give him a chance. He's so much fun. I've had the most fun playing Garfield out of any platform fighting character I've ever played, and I mean that genuinely. I just absolutely love this this lasagna cat. He's just so funny, and he's so much fun to play because you could use his entire kit. You know, you're not limited to just one or two options. He doesn't really have any bad moves, so to speak. So definitely give him a shot if you're interested at all. Now for this next two sections of the video, the next section, I'm going to pass you guys over to two very notable Garfields. There are some notable Garfields in the community, but these two I would probably consider currently, as of the recording of this video, the top two Garfield mains. You know, there are some secondaries and pocket Garfields out there that are pretty cool. Lilybun has a pretty sick Garfield, and Jarl has a pretty sick Garfield. He used to main him, now I think he secondaries him. But TNTBlowzUp is the #1 ranked Garfield main in EU, and Garf, I believe, is currently the #1 ranked Garfield main in NA. And I've played these gentlemen before. They are really good. Garf is one of the hypest Garfields ever. He goes for some absolutely bananas bonkers plays that I've never seen before. And you just, you know, you've seen clips of his throughout this guide, and he just goes through some crazy stuff. And TNT is just so good at, you know, using Garf's full kit to its maximum potential. So, you know, I wanted to give a section here at the end for some top player tips. That way they can give you some insight into what it's like to play Garf at top level. And then the video is going to end with a compilation. So at the end of the video, you'll see a mini compilation that combines both some super hype clips, some kind of crazy shenanigans that you can pull off with Garf, along with some more practical kills and setups that you can see in action. Like one of the clips is just a simple dash attack jab up aerial up strong for a kill. So it combines a little bit of hype with a little bit of the more practical uses of Garfield in action. So I'm going to pass you over to these top players for some tips, and the video will end with a compilation. So I do want to say ahead of time, since this will be the last you'll be hearing from me for this video, I hope this has helped you guys, you know, if you're thinking about picking up Garf. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it down in the comment section below, and hop in the Grinders Discord and ask any of the Garf players. We are more than happy to help. So that being said, here are TNT and Garf.
Thank you very much, dude, for your amazingly sick guide. And hi, everyone. I am TNTBlowzUp. I am the best Garfield main in Europe, and in contention for the best Garfield main in the world. I have played this character ever since the release of this, character, because he wasn't in the base game. And I've been striving to push forward the Garfield meta ever since. I'm very happy to help with this guide and make it so that the Garfield players actually have something easier to work with, because obviously finding everything on your own is very hard. So in this section of the video, I'm going to talk about 5 different things. I'm going to talk about Garfield's up air chains, Garfield's up tilt chains, which is something you want to do on heavier characters, pie combo routes, DI mix-up kill options, and his animations. I hope that you guys enjoy this section of the video. It is definitely a little bit more advanced, but definitely very cool.
One of Garfield's best ways to get damage in this game is by doing up air strings. The way that you do this is that you do jump, up air, fast fall, land on the ground, then jump again and repeat the process. The reason why this is important because it's a disjointed hitbox that is hard to contest by any character in the game. It is also just keeps them low enough to the ground where you can definitely combo it into itself. You can also like follow the DI where your opponent is going. So the only real way they can get out of it is by DIing off stage. If they fall fast enough and are heavy enough, you can also mix in neutral airs to keep them lower to the ground and for DI mix-ups. Especially when at higher percents, you can do a DI mix-up nair into one of your aerial strungs. It can kill extremely early if you get the right DI call out. Up tilt is an extremely good move depending on what character you're fighting. The heavier the character is, the better it actually works. You can get an up tilt from a lot of situations and then link it into itself on a lot of faster falling characters. This makes it so that you can actually get a really decent amount of percent on characters that are harder to up air chain. This is especially useful in characters like Jenny, Patrick, and Raptor as well, but can also be done for a little bit on characters like Zim, like once or twice. Garfield spies are an extremely interesting projectile. Like Legit Brownies Gaming said before, they always go in the order of cream pie, raspberry pie, and blueberry pie. There is one exception to this rule, and it has to do with the fact that if you do lose your stock, you will always start with a cream pie no matter what happens. Now, the nice thing about this is that like you always know which pie you get next. And this helps a lot for your combo game, since you can do whatever you want basically to confirm it into, and it has its own combo routes. Now the best thing I want to tell you guys about it in this specific segment is you can combo your cream pie off stage into a spike, or you can combo your cream pie off stage into a raspberry pie into a spike, which brings them lower. This works especially well on faster falling characters that are stuck in the pie for longer. You can do this against other characters as well, but you want to aim the pie higher up. So, Garfield is a character of DI mix-ups, meaning that his forward strong will kill extremely early on DI out, but his up strong will kill extremely early on DI in. The reason why this is important is because in forward strong specifically, they will fly absolutely nowhere on DI in, meaning that it is super important for you to mix these options up. But they will also die like way too early on DI out. This is also true for the aerial version of this move, but less since the new patch that removed momentum cancelling. This move is a lot better than it was in previous patches, so definitely worth checking out.
Let's talk about why Garfield's animations are really good for the character. So, let's start with Nair, right? Let's start off with neutral air. If you look at this, right? He pulls himself together before stretching himself out, and when he is stretched out completely, the first frame of it, his entire body is engulfed by a hitbox, meaning that there's actually a disjointed hitbox, meaning that there's actually an amazing opportunity for this move to combo break better than anyone actually thinks. Literally, the hitbox is about twice the size. His hands do not have a hitbox, his feet do not have a hitbox, it's only his arms. So you can actually see how much of a disjoint this move actually is. The only place where there's technically not a hitbox is his head, but to be fair, if you get hit there, it's kind of an awkward situation you put yourself into. Same thing counts for your up strong. You will stretch all the way out, and then there's a giant hitbox. It's really hard to contest this move for the same reason. It's very disjointed and everything. And then down strong as well. If you stretch yourself all the way out in one frame, and now there's a giant hitbox, it's really hard to contest with these moves. Definitely something to keep in mind of. Down air is it's a little bit similar, but it's not in the same vein, where like it is slightly disjointed, but he sticks his legs forward, especially like near the after the beginning of the animation. So it's definitely a really good position to be in. His strong neutral air pulls his legs all the way up after the RPS hitbox is there. Meaning that if someone is trying to hit you on your legs, they will miss. And with all that being said, I would like to thank you guys so much for listening to my part of the Garfield guide. I very much appreciate this opportunity that he gave me to add my own spin to things and to edit my own section of the video. So thank you very much, man. But before I pass it off to Garf, be sure to check out the Super Combo wiki page linked in the description. It was made by me and implemented by Scooter Dupe, so I'd like to thank him personally for that as well, for implementing the work onto the website. And with that being said, yeah, thank you very much for watching.
Hey there, I'm Garf. As of right now, I'm the #1 Garfield main in North America, and as such, Rob invited me on here to record a couple tips for this guide. My first major tip involves Garfield's light down air. Without a hint of exaggeration, I truly believe this move to be one of the most versatile options in the game. It's +0 on block, allowing for safe block pressure. It's got a slight disjoint, allowing for easier spacing. Since it's a multi-hit, you can perform drag downs. And on top of all of this, it combos into pretty much his entire kit. I could go on for hours about the utility of this move, but in short, you should be throwing this move out pretty much wherever and whenever possible. My second major tip is in regards to the mentality behind using projectiles. It's no secret that Garfield has some very solid projectiles in his kit, which can lead into all sorts of combo routes, but a lot of the time, his projectiles are most effective when they don't even hit. Essentially, what I mean by this is that your opponent will often put themselves in a worse situation by trying to avoid the projectile than they would have been in had they just gotten hit. One example is by using pies to bait out a block, allowing you a free grab. Another example could be leaving Pookie at the edge, baiting your opponents to give up center stage when they go to destroy him. All in all, Garfield is an incredibly expressive character and no two people really play him the same way. This brings me to my third and final tip. Just experiment with him and try to develop your own unique playstyle. This video has given you pretty much all the building blocks required to become a proficient Garfield player, but how you assemble these building blocks is all up to you. For example, you could take a more neutral focused approach, in which he uses light neutral air and projectiles to chip away at your opponent while making it impossible for them to get in. But an equally valid approach could be rushing down your opponent with his light down air, leading into up air chains that could cost your opponent their stock. There's a million ways to play this character, and however you choose to do so is wholly up to you. So go forth and hate Mondays.